I think we finally have it and are live in all three spots. Finally. What a mess for a second.
I don't have the live stream working for what it's worth. Oh, just kidding. Spoke too soon.
Yep. And it looks like YouTube is live. If people want to watch over on YouTube, we've got Facebook live. I should be able to see everybody's chats come in from that. So if anybody wants to chat with me there, by all means, please do. We got some heavy-ish shit to talk about tonight. If people want to watch over on YouTube, we've got Facebook Live. Oh yeah, and there's the live chat. If anybody wants to come and join, it's on Facebook. I'll be curious if people come through there. What a day. I am here live with my friend Sarah. We had some technical difficulties getting the triple stream to work for a minute. I tested it earlier, but something went haywire between my earlier test and now. But now I am good to go, and we are firing live. What's up, Sarah? How you doing?
Oh, it's another Wednesday. Can't complain.
Indeed, it is a Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, right? I'd feel real embarrassed if I got that wrong.
No, it is. It is for sure.
Well, good.
When you're sucking the teat of capitalism, all the days run together, don't they?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, boy, do we have quite the story today. Sadly, not a fun thing to talk about at all. If you can see from the article on the screen, I should probably zoom in on this here a little bit. As always, whenever there's a news story like this, I try to look at news, and then I try to look at a little bit of opinion just to see different things. It has become harder and harder these days to separate the two. But here is the raw news for you. Texas law that bans abortion before many women know they're pregnant takes effect. So this law has been waiting to take effect for a while. There was an emergency action that the Supreme Court could have had the opportunity to look at it and had the chance to strike it down. The Supreme Court, the way I understand it, has a backlog of cases. And when that backlog is full, if something very high priority comes along, they can immediately turn around and strike it down. So, they've got the caseload that they're going to look at for the next 12 months, but some new law gets passed. They have the opportunity. People can file a special type of petition to the court to have them look at it immediately and then turn around and have the chance to make something a higher priority. This would be in case of somebody passing an egregious law, which, as we're going to talk about, in any sane universe, this should qualify for. But the Supreme Court remained silent, which has now allowed the legislation to go into full effect as of today. So, women of Texas, here's what it says. Legislation banning abortions after about 6 weeks is now the law of the land in Texas, effectively ending Roe v. Wade protections in the state. In a move that surprised some high court watchers, the U.S. Supreme Court didn't act on an emergency request to stop the law from taking effect by midnight Tuesday. It allowed the policy to go ahead despite court challenges. That's the deadline I'm referring to. On Wednesday, President Biden called the law extreme and said it, quote, blatantly violates the constitutional right to abortion, adding that his administration will protect and defend that right. The Texas law, passed in May, bans all abortions in the state after about 6 weeks of pregnancy, well before many women even know they are pregnant. The policy conflicts with the Supreme Court's precedents, which prohibit states from banning abortion before fetal viability, usually between 22 and 24 weeks of pregnancy. Again, this seems so obvious that this should be immediately taken up by the Supreme Court, although we'll talk about the particulars of why I'm not even sure that would be what we would want at this point with Sarah here in a minute. But if anything, immediate review makes sense. You already have an existing decision that is to deal with fetal viability. This law clearly violates that. However, as you will find out, there's sort of a way around it, and that's what this next part talks about. Texas's new law is one of the most strict abortion bans in the nation. It allows private citizens to sue abortion providers and anyone else who helps a woman obtain an abortion, including those who give a woman a ride to a clinic or provide financial assistance in obtaining an abortion. Private citizens who bring these suits don't need to show any connection to those they are suing. If they prevail, the law entitles them to a minimum of $10,000 in damages plus attorney fees. How does that even work?
That's kind of what I've been trying to figure out.
Like, why am I owed anything because someone else is doing something that has nothing to fucking do with me?
So here's the part that's really interesting. Okay, so we could get into an entire discussion about, the very typical, is abortion right, is abortion wrong? I feel like at this point that
it's a bit played out.
We all have this, everybody has the same argument. Everyone knows exactly what the other side is going to say. And frankly speaking, we're not going to get anywhere. That's not what this is. What I find so fascinating, because correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've read, it's illegal, but there's no crime.
Correct.
There's no crime. It's illegal, but not a crime.
It's a civil penalty.
It's a civil penalty. So I work in law enforcement. I understand the difference between something that is a criminal charge and a civil suit. This is baffling to me.
Like, how can this even work? I was joking with somebody earlier, right? And, like, imagine trying to prove this.
Like, well, because that's my thing. So when you look at...
Your Honor, I found the positive pregnancy test in the trash bin next to the toilet. I proceeded to follow the suspect over the next couple of weeks and monitor patterns of behavior. When her boyfriend came and said they were just going for a drive, I knew they were up to no good, Your Honor, so I tailed them in my Chrysler Sebring with the windows down because the AC doesn't work.
Jesus.
Like, what?
But that's the thing that I just don't get, because... So
understand.
when you're looking at a criminal case, you have to do things like collect evidence, and there is a very specific chain of evidence and chain of custody that has to be followed collecting that evidence. There's a lot of specifics to ensure that what you present at court is viable evidence. I don't quite know how it works in a civil suit. I'm going to be honest. I've never been a part of a civil suit. I have never really needed to know much about a civil suit, other than civil suits are things that aren't necessarily crimes, or aren't criminal offenses that directly deal with the police. So I don't really know, like you said, how do you prove that?
Yeah.
I'm assuming if I wanted to go sue, Dr. Doolittle, who performed an abortion at 8 weeks, I'm assuming I would have to hire a lawyer who could then subpoena certain evidence. But, it's just fucking baffling to me that this law is essentially granting a pass for what almost seems like vigilante justice.
Right? Like, this is out of control.
And I personally, I think I see why they're doing it. I see what's happening here. This is a litigational nightmare. This is a complete mess.
They know that these cases won't go anywhere. They're just designed to tie people up and waste their time and make it hell for them.
More than that, I think, I mean, so we all know that the point of all of these different circuits constantly pushing forth heartbeat bills and, other restrictive abortion access bills over the last 20 years, probably longer, it's just 20 years that I can particularly recount, has largely been to get one of those cases heard in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
With the goal of overturning Roe v. Wade and eventually saying that abortion is, not a right, and is not health care. And I think this is another attempt to do that. The difference is it's coming at it from such a different direction that I really think this is scary.
Yeah.
I honestly think if we're talking about up until now, good chances for bills to go in front of the Supreme Court, or laws, I guess at this point, this is it. I did a little bit of reading on this.
But if that's the case, why wouldn't they have taken up the immediate thing?
Which is
like their whole immediate request to have it reviewed if it conflicts with Roe v. Wade, because wouldn't that have given them the opportunity to overturn Roe v. Wade right there? Like, couldn't they have done that under the emergency filing that was just filed?
I mean, maybe, but I don't think...
or does that not work for some procedural reason that we normal people don't understand? Or
I'll be honest, I have no idea. But my thoughts on it is what this is designed to do is to sow chaos in the legal system to the point where the higher courts have to listen to it.
I don't... Did you have, like, any kind of weird, like, futuristic visions today? Because literally the next article I was going to pull up was an opinion piece from The Independent. And look at the title. The whole purpose is to sow legal chaos. You literally quoted it verbatim.
That's exactly what it's doing.
Yeah.
It's 100% just going to... Because all it's going to do is foul up the courts. Right? All it's going to do is let everyone and their mom have another fucking reason to sue someone. And, I didn't get a good chance to look and see if there's any other laws that are like this. Is there any other law that says this is illegal, but the only recourse is a civil suit? And I'll be honest, I don't know. I'm assuming it exists, but it's so fucking weird.
It's wacky. It's easily the craziest story I've read. It's the craziest new law I've read be passed in a long time. Like, I'm genuinely flabbergasted.
So here's my kind of question, because I don't remember, and I've been a little bit out of the political sphere for a while now due to general apathy.
Sure.
But here in Iowa, when we had the heartbeat bill come, this was many years ago, and it came through. Reynolds signed it, I believe, and it was immediately challenged and sent to the district courts.
Right. Correct. Yep.
Now, the law has to go into effect before it can be essentially temporarily halted to reach district court. It has to actually become a law before that can happen, right?
Yes.
So I'm guessing, or I am hoping, it sounds like from what I read, a lot of places, the ACLU, there's a handful of others, are challenging this and trying to get it stopped with the intent to get it to district court. I don't know what their circuit is. I would be interested to see what their circuit has ruled on abortion laws in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Because here in Iowa, when we had the heartbeat bill come through, it was really no big deal because it came through, everyone rolled their eyes, and the district courts literally just dealt with this from, I think it might have been Missouri.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right.
Missouri had just tried the same damn thing, and the
it failed immediately.
Court
yeah,
had shut it down. So we're sitting here going, okay, this is a waste of everybody's time. You're going to pass it. It's going to get denied. The district court is going to uphold the precedent that has already been set. So, I'm curious as to whether or not this is going to follow similar suit. I don't know what district Texas is in, but that will be interesting to see, because based on how the district courts rule is going to determine how far this pushes, and what the precedent is. So yeah, I don't know.
It's a wild one. Here's the opinion from the Independent. This is from writer Kathleen Walsh. Texas's draconian 6-week abortion ban, which allows private citizens to sue other private citizens they suspect of helping others obtain abortions, went into effect at midnight on September 1st, and it wasn't just Texans who worried about the landmark legislation, the first of its kind since Roe v. Wade, that hasn't been struck down by the Supreme Court. Abortion rights activists, legal journalists, and abortion providers across the United States worry that this bill spells the end of Roe altogether. Though technically a red state with a Republican governor, Republican-controlled legislature, this is an unpopular bill. And it is particularly unpopular with those who it'll impact the most. Statistics show that nationally younger generations overwhelmingly support the right to legal abortion, and a UT Texas study in February indicated a slight majority of Texans believe that abortion laws in the state should be less strict, not more so.
It's almost like a two-party system isn't the ideal way to decide your government, but what do I know?
Right. Where was the part that... This is just explaining how unpopular it is, but this is the part that I cared about. While the cities in Texas are more populous, diverse, and left-leaning, these voices are often drowned out in the media and the state legislature. And a presidential election, usually like 40 to 45% will be voting for the Democratic candidate, and that's a big chunk. He said, who is he? This is a random Texas citizen named Dale G. The really outrageous part is that even in the law itself, there's no state enforcement of this law. It explicitly states that, Dale explained. When I first heard about the law, I thought, that just means these right-to-life organizations can go out and sue all the women's clinics and pretty much obliterate that side of women's health in Texas. Because even if they're not successful, they're still tying them up in court. The whole purpose of it just seems like it's to sow chaos, he continued. It's so evil to me, it's undermining the purpose of the law itself. Dale isn't the only one worried about the wider-ranging impacts of this ban. Turner also noted that clinics provide abortions are often where non-binary people, like themselves and other marginalized identities, go to receive any kind of reproductive care. They fear the flight of physicians, and people who are willing to provide abortions leaving the state, which is, I don't know, probably not going to be an immediate impact. They'll probably wait out the courts, but definitely worth being concerned about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is so baffling. I am glad that Biden at least spoke out against it. My understanding is there's another, so it is in direct violation of Roe v. Wade from at least, I guess I want to say, some legal experts' opinions. But there was apparently, and of course I didn't think to save the link. There's apparently another piece of legislation that hit courts regarding private entities being able to sue doctors, specifically in this context of abortion care providers. And if I can find it, I'll link it to you. But apparently it's in violation of that as well, where it's there's something deeper here where it's like, this is apparently very much not appropriate, that there have been precedents set where this is ineffective. And I guess maybe I'm just really, really hoping that's the case.
Yeah.
Because this definitely, is something I'm looking at going, holy shit. Are we actually going to have to be concerned? Because, I mean, so I'm 29. When I was in high school and abortion suddenly became a topic everybody wanted to talk about, every time there was a challenge, I was always immediately on edge, immediately afraid, immediately, oh my God, they're going to take away my right to an abortion. They're going to take away this, blah, 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 blah. As time went on and I saw that every single time someone challenged it, it got struck down.
Right.
And as I understood the law more and I understood, okay, this is how Roe v. Wade works, this is how legal precedent works, I kind of became less concerned, to the point where anymore I look at these anti-abortion laws and these anti-abortion, blowhards who are ragging on about, legalities and illegalities. And I just kind of roll my eyes and go, okay, Barbara, you keep going. You fight the good fight, but it's still going to be legal at the end of the day. Have a good one. But this is so different that it definitely has me kind of sitting here on edge going, what's going to happen with this one?
Well, let's not forget the fact that the situation in the Supreme Court is certainly worse than it's ever been as well.
Yeah, it's almost like having one president put 3 justices on the fucking bench is a bad idea. But what do I know?
Yeah, you really got to stop thinking so hard.
I know.
Come on.
Sidebar. I'm sitting here, 6 months ago. Well, more than 6 months ago at this point. Jesus Christ, it's already September. A year ago going how, oh no, stacking the Supreme Court, that's immoral, that's bad, we shouldn't sink to their level. And now I'm sitting here going, okay, about my previous opinion.
Yeah, right.
So...
Suddenly kind of feel like we should have done that, actually.
Yeah, I'm kind of going, I'm sitting here going, man, we shouldn't get rid of the filibuster, that's unfair. And now I'm going, hold on, wait. Anyway, different discussion. but yeah, no, this is baffling. I don't understand how it's... So first off, I think it's important to say it's not enforceable because there's no enforcement.
Well, the enforcement is if you provide an abortion in the state of Texas, you're definitely getting sued.
Right. But like there's
apparently by anyone.
There's no, it doesn't seem like there's any, what are the repercussions? Okay, so you get sued and you are I got
so it's exactly like what they did to the collection agencies. So, which granted, not making an equivalency there, we should have done what we did to the collection agencies in the 90s. But okay, so this is what it says, okay? This law empowers individuals to enforce an abortion ban. How would that work in practice? Anyone who successfully sues an abortion provider under this law could be awarded at least $10,000. And to prepare for that, Texas Right to Life has set up what it calls Whistleblower website, where people can submit anonymous tips about anyone they believe to be violating the law. These lawsuits are not against the women, says John Ciego with Texas Right to Life. The lawsuits would be against the individuals making money off of the abortion industry itself. So this is not a spy on your neighbor and see if they're having an abortion, even though that's literally what it fucking is. It's gonna happen, yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. So I see this is the Right to Lifers going, oh, we don't want to punish women for having sex. See, we just want to punish women for having sex. Like, that's 100% what they're fucking doing.
Yeah.
Like, and on top of it, for him to sit there and say, oh, well, we're punishing the abortion industry, the abortion providers. So you're telling me if I live in Texas and my partner drives me to Planned Parenthood and they find out I'm 7 weeks along or have, some reasonable belief that I'm more than 6 weeks along and I get an abortion, they can sue my partner because he drove me to the... First off, he ain't a part of the fucking abortion, what they call it, the abortion industry. But second off, that's punishing me.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, so what? It's at the most you can get personal payout. And I think you mentioned this earlier. How the fuck does any other person deserve financial compensation for somebody else's medical decision that literally has no effect on them?
That's the part to me that's egregious. Like, who the fuck? How is some random law firm... Like, they're gonna make some law firms filthy rich off of this if people get caught.
Like... And I mean,
so there was a story about a guy graduated law school, decided he had a pretty clever idea. And I think he was in Washington State and he actually wrote a book about it. So there's a couple different laws that have a similar civilian enforceable $10,000 restitution payment for those who are victims okay, of the collection agencies. And the way it works is if you tell a collection agency that they have the wrong number, the law states you only have to tell them that once, and if they call again, it's a $10,000 fine each time.
Oh.
So the collection agencies have to create a system to effectively remove wrong numbers immediately when they are discovered to be a wrong number.
Sure.
This guy in Washington State decided that he saw that and was going to turn himself into a millionaire. He intentionally racked up like 6 credit cards, defaulted on a couple of different loans, like a car loan, a loan for a boat, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it all got sent to collections, he would like really lead these collection agencies on and make them really convinced that he was going to pay. He would even make like a good faith payment of like $30. And then he'd be like, I'm going to pay that whole balance. Just call me at this time on this day. I'll have it ready to go. I'm waiting for a settlement, yada, yada, yada. And then they'd call and he would say, you have the wrong number.
That's some chaotic fucking energy.
Dude, and then every single call after that moment by the collections agent, $10,000. This one agent called him 97 times. This
one agent is now broke as fuck.
So yeah, like, but here's the thing. That's a harm to me.
Yeah. You are the personal victim of that
situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
how do I just get, you know what? I found out that Dr. Fred Big Dickenstein over there is running an abortion clinic. I want $10,000. Like, the fuck?
So, I did see this one thing on Reddit where apparently, like, there is 100% this potential. It would never work this way, but someone threw out this idea in the comments of some post where, like, you could just have 2 doctors who go back and forth and, like, keep trading each other $10,000 and keep, like, saying he performed an abortion, and then they go to trial, and then the other doctor turns around. It was like this...
Just beat him
like,
to it.
$10,000 timeshare program for abortion care providers. It was kind of funny.
God.
But no, I don't get it. How? The thing is, they know this. The Right to Lifers fucking know this. They know that these people aren't fucking victims. They are doing this to cause problems. This is not a good faith attempt. So, you and I have talked at length about how when we are talking about pro-choice versus pro-life, most people who are pro-life view abortion as murder.
Yeah.
And you.
I certainly did.
Yeah, you cannot when someone believes that abortion is the exact same thing, exactly 100% the same as if you went and shot a random adult person dead on the street who had done nothing. You can't argue with that, right? There's no middle ground to be reached, really. However, this is not seeking in good faith to stop what they consider murder. This is seeking to punish.
Mm.
And that's very clear and very obvious by their own words. I mean, he flat out, in that article you read, I think he flat out said this is meant to, punish abortion care providers. Sure, it's not meant to punish the women, but it's going to punish the women because it's going to give them, it's going to make them feel, guilt or some shit or, whatever. This is not a good faith law. This is not a law that is done in the same vein as many other laws can at least, be argued. You can argue that a heartbeat bill is being done because, once it has a heartbeat, that means it's human. Or, you can make that
And that is what they try to do. They try to say that viability is not the correct demarcation of when it's a human.
Yeah.
And there is ambiguity there. I tend to lean on that side of I think we don't know. And I think anybody who says that they do know is being dishonest. I mean, technically those cells are all part of an organism that we call a humanoid organism from like day one, sure. But at the same point,
well,
when do you
well, and
what do you consider a humanoid that has no nervous system? Like, I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean?
Right. And this is where, when it comes to the great abortion debate, this is where I think people get too hung up on both sides on this idea of when does life begin. I am probably one of the few pro-choice people on the planet, adamantly pro-choice people, who agrees that life reasonably can be considered to start at conception.
Yeah.
Fetal development is a part of human growth and development. The question isn't about when life starts. The question is about when life matters. And that's purely philosophical.
Yeah. No, you're... see, I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is actually where I wanted to get to in the conversation tonight. Because that's a big thing that I've been jostling with as well. Because I realized there was an inherent contradiction in two positions I now hold.
Sure.
I absolutely 100% believe in the right to end your own life.
Sure.
It makes sense to me philosophically. I think it's unjust to prevent somebody, and especially in the case of terminal illness and facing the misery that can bring on and the impacts on your family and everything. If you feel like I want to check out of this earth now rather than go through hell for the next 18 months, you should have the absolute right to do it.
Sure.
Obviously, that opens the door to a lot of... That's the harder solution, because it's sticky. And there's a lot of conditions where we shouldn't, we should consider letting somebody do it. If there's clear mental illness or, something's not right, like this shouldn't be ubiquitous, right?
Right.
But generally speaking, it should be protected. I'm convinced of that. But that is also a question of when does life matter?
Right. No, and I mean, when we're talking about...
And matter to whom, by the way?
Right. Yeah, so, and I mean, abortion is... It's just, like you said, it's a sticky subject. That's why no one will ever fucking agree on it. But I think there are continuous attempts by both sides to simplify what is inherently a complex, nuanced, and largely moral conclusion that one has to make. So I have looked at the data, I've looked at the research, I can sit and read a biology textbook or understand how a nervous system develops. I can, understand that so many statistics about abortions in this trimester versus this trimester versus this trimester. I can gather all that data and I can come up with, a well-informed conclusion about that data. But at the end of the day, where I draw the line at abortion and how I conceptualize this great idea of when do you let someone terminate a fetus or terminate a pregnancy at the cost of a fetus, when is that moral and amoral? 100% philosophical. My philosophical decision might be based on facts. Mm-hmm. It might be influenced by facts. But at the end of the day, it is an opinion. And I often see both sides way too fucking often trying to turn a philosophical discussion into a purely scientific one. And that's just not how this topic works, because we're talking about this very ambiguous concept called life.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and
it's not that black and white.
That is that it's a big challenge too, because there's so many other physical or philosophical contingencies that you would have to agree upon before you can take this one issue. Like, it's so far down the list of philosophical questions that we haven't even answered yet. I mean, to date, today the debate still rages over whether we can be objective about morality in any real sense.
Right.
And so, this is a question of what's the moral thing to do. Generally speaking, people tend to use reduction in harm as their guiding principle, and we've sort of agreed to that, but that's on, and this is something philosophers are very worried about, it's on very thinly laid ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you can see that breaking down and not being the safeguard we need to get against really serious future problems that are a way bigger deal than abortion, right?
Well,
like, what's really holding us back from all killing each other? Like,
right.
It's a less than people think when you pay attention to philosophy.
Well, and, when it comes to harm reduction being the guidance, I mean, a huge contention we see in the abortion argument is, okay, harm reduction to whom?
Yeah.
Because if you consider that fetus on the exact same level as the mother carrying it, you aren't looking at it. You're looking at it very differently than someone who goes, well, clearly the one that's currently breathing and sentient is in, has a right, or it's so.
And that comes from us thinking that the worst thing you can do to somebody is kill them.
Right, that's true, and
that's not even established.
Yeah.
and I tend to lean on the other side of that one now. I think I used to probably be pretty convinced of that notion. Yeah. An ISIS video or two of them doing torture might change your mind.
Yeah, no, unaliving someone can be very nice and peaceful compared to some other shit. Like,
yeah,
there are some really great ways to be made unalive.
So true. So true. Look at this asshole, by the way. Greg Abbott is also bragging about the fact that constitutional carry goes into effect in Texas today, and anybody who legally owns a gun can just carry it around, no license or training required.
Oh, jeez. It's weird how they like some parts of our constitutional rights and not others. It's such a strange...
It's literally just going full Handmaid's Tale in Texas.
Well,
that was my tweet that I did earlier. Let's pull up the see if we got this Twitter I posted here.
And this is, again, different side tangent. We should repeal the Second Amendment.
Right.
I'm one of those people. I am happily one of those liberals who says we need to repeal the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I said hashtag Texas is going to get away with turning itself into Gilead, and then I posted this gif of Offred and all the handmaids marching.
Yeah. No, it's just like... Here's the thing, and this is something that has been said over and over and over, and I can't emphasize it enough. You cannot make abortions illegal. You can make safe abortions illegal. We are always going to have abortion.
Yep.
We've had abortion since the first day someone got fucking pregnant. Like, there's always been someone who hasn't wanted to have a kid. And, now that I think about it, something else to consider with this law. Let's talk about miscarriages. Let's talk about medical necessity. I mean, I noticed the law it says it makes no exceptions for rape or incest, but what about medical necessity? What if a woman is literally going to die? What if a fetus isn't compatible with life?
Fucking sue them. I want my 10 grand.
How fucking cruel. Because here's the thing. In the U.S., the estimated number of abortions. So there are 3 states that do not report abortions as like other doctors have to have to report other numbers. 3 states. Don't remember which 3 they are. I think they're all on the East Coast. 3 states. So not including those 3 states, in the U.S. alone, I think 665,000 abortions are performed annually. You could probably Google that, but I'm pretty sure that number is spot on. So let's estimate, just for the sake of conservatism, let's say including those 3 states, there are 800,000 abortions performed per year. How many live births occur in the U.S. a year? And then I'm curious about this, because this whole notion, and I was going somewhere with this, and I'll admit that my mind just fucking froze. Okay, 3.75 million live births. So I think we can agree that most people that get pregnant in the U.S. either want to be pregnant or want to carry a pregnancy to term. That's where I was going with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
800,000 abortions, which it's definitely not that many. I think it's
total of 620,000 roughly abortions for 2018 were reported to the CDC.
Okay, perfect. From 49 reporting areas. So
we might assume there might be 50,000 or so unreported.
Sure. But even if we assume some massive fucking number, we can conclude that most people that get pregnant in the United States carry their child to term.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty broad assumption because we're not taking into account confounding variables like, how many are born because there isn't abortion care, how many are, aren't viable for long after birth, blah, blah, blah. But
we're also not talking about how much this number would go down if we actually had ubiquitous birth control and we didn't have a third of the country who tried to tell their kids that the only way to prevent pregnancy is to just don't have sex.
Yeah, because that fucking works.
That's worked, yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at here is most children in the U.S. are born on purpose.
Yeah.
So this whole idea that abortion is some sort of fucking crisis, to me, is out fucking rageous. And this whole idea that women are just going to the abortion clinic like I might go get Starbucks in the morning it's just nonsensical. It's just nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And I just... Do you know how much a fucking abortion costs? Even with insurance, even if it is covered. Like, I have Cadillac fucking insurance, and I would still have to pay like $900 for an abortion.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Who the fuck is going and having those for funsies? It's like... And then when we talk about miscarriages, we talk about these women who are in the 3rd trimester and get the horrifying news that their wanted child isn't going to be born alive. You're telling me that this law is going to make them carry their dead child or their dying child to term because it's now illegal after 6.5 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever. Like, you want to talk about things worse than fucking death? How about that fucking trauma for you? Because that sounds fucking miserable. So, I just... This is one of those things where I just don't... And I wish... I have yet to have a conversation with someone truly pro-life that has felt like it was in good faith. And Alex, maybe you've had a different experience. I mean, I know you were on the other side of the fence line for a long time.
Yeah.
But I've never had a conversation with someone that operated under this actual assumption of harm reduction. Of who actually seemed to want to reduce harm without inherently punishing women for having sex.
Well, so here's the thing. It's very systemic. And it's very much a Crusaders mentality. And this is the hard part that I think non-religious people have to, like, wrapping their mind around. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine growing up in a country like the United States, but genuinely having an opinion that is very similar to an organization like Al-Qaeda or ISIS, where the rest of the world sees what you're doing as horrible, and yet you are absolutely certain you are a crusader for God himself, doing his work. That's what it's like. And it's really hard for people to understand how attractive that can be, especially to men and young men who crave feeling powerful and feeling impactful in the world. That's what it was like for me. What's that?
All y'all men, you've got some weird hang up with masculinity. I don't get it.
It's weird.
As not a man, I don't understand.
It's wild to me because, I mean, quite frankly, I'm one of the least masculine, You're
pretty soft. You're pretty big soft.
I am really not. Like, I'm not the wrestle in the dirt type of dude. I am pretty soft, like you said. And even for me, there was something very empowering and very desirable about feeling like I had the holy book that had all the answers, and I could wield that like a sword. And there's a reason why that metaphor gets used in church, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And so then imagine you come packed full of that, and then you get indoctrinated into the idea. So what's the layers? Number one, the first layer is that the worst thing that can happen is death. Especially when that's coupled with an early exit from this world, depending on what your belief of salvation is, could be eternal damnation. Now, in my particular faith, I struggled with this a lot because I feel like where I first started when I first learned about hell at 8 or 9, it was anyone not a believer doesn't get to go. And then it was like we had the caveat of, well, the innocent and the babies, because they never have a chance to accept Jesus, they get to go to heaven.
Meanwhile, the Catholics, they're like, nah, everyone fucking...
Yeah.
Fuck them babies.
Right. Well, and then what's hilarious is now the new pope says hell's not real and not biblical doctrine.
I mean, it's almost like that's exactly what the Jewish people have been saying for years.
Literally forever.
We're just gonna, the Christians were like, we're just gonna take the parts of your religion we like, sprinkle it with some bullshit, and then feed it to the masses. Different discussion, but I digress. Had a very enlightening conversation with some Jewish folks about hell and their feelings on what happened as kind of Christianity blossomed, and was like, yeah, this is a great Bible story. Moses, great Bible story. Say that to any Jewish person, and they are very likely going to punch you. If you call like the story of Moses like a Bible story, they're probably going to smack you in the face.
Yeah,
but anyway,
for sure.
Well,
and one of my all-time favorite quotes, since we're on an atheist kick for just a minute, is there was a debate that Sam Harris had, and I don't remember who he was actually debating. He said, our opponents on stage today operate, it seems like they discuss and operate, and they are treating all religions as if they have an equal chance of being the correct one, and that they're equally likely. But there are some religions that are just less likely to be true by definition. And he says, take Mormonism, for example. All Mormonism is Christianity plus some rather stupid ideas.
Is Christianity just Judaism plus some rather
That was my point, yes. That was hit the nail on the head. You're welcome, Jews. You're welcome, Jews.
What's going on?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Christ. Anyway. The point is,
when I get popular someday, this will get turned around and somehow be made out to me being anti-Semitic.
You're gonna get canceled. You and
over this exact conversation.
Yeah, no, we're both gonna lose our jobs and be canceled. It'll be fine. But anyway.
So that's the operating system. The operating system is I'm saving lives. That's the top layer. The most important thing is life. And so every other commandment follows behind that. And then there's also, sort of like the responsibility doctrine that goes on with. This is how the Crusaders came to be, right? Because it was like it becomes your responsibility to stop people from facing eternal damnation in hell.
Well, and I think, kind of going back to what you're saying, that does make a lot of sense when you say death is the worst thing that can happen. And if that's what you're convinced of, yeah, these are objectively fucking wrong, but
these are very, very powerful ideas, and they're intoxicating to those who are susceptible to believing them. Again, it turns these people into crusaders, and it did for me. And so the funny part is, as much as I agree with the liberal secular world and think they're absolutely correct, the way they go about fighting this is incredibly wrong, because they're afraid to attack the real problem,
which is
the religion.
Oh, yeah. But, I think there is something to be said for, I don't want to say tolerance, because I fucking hate the word tolerance, but the truth of the matter is, and this is very tangential, but the truth of the matter is we're always going to have religion. We're always going to have people who seek a higher meaning.
Seeking a higher meaning, when I say religion, so let me clarify. What I mean is religious dogma.
Oh, sure.
That's
zealotry
the thing.
Zealotry is a whole different ball game.
When you tell me that you are convinced of the absolute truth of it, but it's not good enough for you to play with your toys yourself, you want to make me play with them, I say hell no.
Yeah.
And that's the point, right? When people are afraid to attack the dogmas of religion and break them down and make people ask hard questions because they don't want to offend anybody. Well, there's a difference between respect and capitulation.
Well, and there's also something to be said about the paradox of tolerance, where you can't tolerate intolerance, or else the intolerance inevitably wins, and then you just have shitty people being allowed to be shitty.
Yep.
Which, guess what we're seeing a lot of anymore.
Yeah.
But, I always, when it comes to the abortion debate with religious folks, or folks who look at it from a religious standpoint, and you and I have had a lot of these conversations where it's like, one of the first things you have to really do when you're having a discussion with someone with a vastly opposing worldview is agree on the simple things, agree on terms, agree on definitions.
And goals.
And goals. I cannot reach a middle ground if I believe abortion is not murder and someone else believes abortion is murder. There is no like, well, we can have a little bit of murder. Like, one's gonna say that.
The problem is, and this is what I was getting back to, is like you said, it is philosophical, and I think we have to win the philosophical argument. You have to go a level up than that. And it's kind of funny, but what we're really having is a discussion about why is murder wrong.
Right.
And
it's fair to point out, not all murder is wrong.
Right.
I think we can all agree. Most people are going to agree that sometimes murder is okay. Such as in self-defense.
That's the thing. I sometimes, in this conversation now with people who really believe it, grant them the murder point.
Sure.
And I just say, fine. If that's what you want to see it as, you know, it is murder the way we're currently doing it. What's a situation where it wouldn't be murder? And let's break down from there.
Yeah.
You know, and we work our way backwards up towards how do we know ending anyone else's life is wrong in the first place? Because a lot of times what you'll have, especially if you get into this deeply philosophical with believers, is you'll get them tripping over a paradox where what they realize they're talking about isn't actually murder. It's apathy and indifference towards people who are about to lose their life. And then it's like, if you want to declare that's wrong for yourself, now you're in a world of hurt, because there are going to be tons of situations where maybe you could make a choice that leads to more people's lives being better or worse, and you're failing to do so. And that's uncomfortable. And so I try to get them uncomfortable on the ground they're standing on in that sense when I'm debating this topic. Because it happens, this whole thing is at a higher level than murder.
Oh, well, yeah. And I mean,
what we fundamentally disagree on is, why is something wrong? And
right.
And in their eyes, it's wrong because the boss says so. Secular people don't operate with that type of ethical prism. We're working in a scenario where it's wrong because it causes harm to other conscious beings, and we should avoid that.
I mean, I told you this earlier, I joined a Facebook group, and it's a very small group, but it's literally, the name of the group is literally Abortion Debate. That's the group name. Like, it's very clear what you're going to get yourself into. And there's this one woman in the group whose name is Lori. And Lori is adamantly pro-life, has attempted to make legal arguments, as well as scientific arguments, as well as moral arguments, claiming that all of these things are in the favor of pro-life, and that, abortion is, like scientifically this, that, and the other thing. Anyway, Lori is an atheist. And Lori has flat out said, I am an atheist, and when I became an atheist, I had to accept the science that said abortion was wrong, or rather the science that said a fetus is a living, breathing human child, or not breathing, but living human child, and therefore we shouldn't be killing them. Like, she's definitely one of the first non-religious people, like strongly convicted non-religious people, very left-leaning in all of her other views, that
has that take
is, and I mean, she clings to it. I've talked with her, she tried to bring up this legal argument, and this was my first interaction with her. She brought up this legal argument where basically she said, well, the law, quote unquote, defines a parent as someone who provides food, shelter, water, and emotional support, and all of these things for the well-being of their child. Is that not what someone is doing while the child is in utero? And therefore, should not those laws also apply to fetuses? Because, if you deprive your child of food, for instance, you're going to have CPS called on you, your kid's going to be taken away, and you're going to be charged with a crime.
For sure.
Her kind of equivalent was, well, if you detach the child from the placenta, you are then starving your child of nutrients and oxygen. So should you not face similar charges of essentially child abuse? Should that not be the same? And, we attempted to explain to her all the ways that she was misconstruing the law. It was very interesting. It was the first time I've heard that wild ride of of an argument.
But it's exactly what I'm referring to.
But then she did it again with biology, and it was just,
because what's the real debate that you have to have with her?
The real debate is the value of life.
Right. She views that as the infinite valuable thing that should not be ended under any circumstances.
Yeah.
What you're really hashing it out over is, again, when does life matter and to whom?
Yep. And we ended up speaking about this because she ended up assuming that I was one of those people that doesn't believe life begins at conception or doesn't, say. And I said, no, I have no intent of arguing with you. I do believe that there is a reasonable definition under which you could say fetal development is part of normal human growth and development. A fetus is a human in process. It is alive. I mean, I don't think it's unscientific to say that the fetus is alive, that fetal development is a stage of life. And I think that took her off guard, because then I said, so I'm not going to argue with you with that, but I am going to argue that it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because it doesn't. And, she said, well, that's discrimination, and began then basically acting and speaking in a way that if I were to take any two other categories of people, men or women, or male or female, black or white, any two categories, and were to try to say, well, this one is less worthy than the other, it would have been the exact same response. And I talked with this with my partner, and she had the exact same visceral reaction as if I would have tried to say that, Alex, your life as a man matters less than mine because you're a man and I'm...
Yeah, but that's not what we're saying at all.
No, but I mean, that's literally how she views it. I mean, she views it exactly the same. It's into her, a fetus is the same as a child, an adult, a toddler, a newborn. It's all the same to her.
So one of the ways to cut through this and make people realize that they're dealing with a lot more philosophical of a problem than they're engaging with, and they're engaging with it at too much of a surface level, I'll tell you what I would have asked this person.
I should invite you to this group. You'd have a heyday. Anyway.
Oh my God, wouldn't I? And the truth is I'm a bit agnostic on this topic. I don't think I have an answer. I'm going with the best answer we have right now. Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean...
The best answer would be to do as few abortions as possible. It's way cheaper to stop the pregnancy in the first place. Let's just fucking get everybody the damn pills. Shots, or et cetera. But
I think most people, short of antinatalists who are just crazy on the other side...
That is one of my favorite arguments of all time to just listen to, because those people are fucking bonkers.
Other than antinatalists, I think most people can agree that the goal should be less abortions.
Yeah, of course.
I want less abortions. I want less abortions because less abortions means more wanted born children.
Yep.
It means more children that come out of the system, or come into the world with parents that love them. It means less children put in a system already burdened. It means less people devastated financially, emotionally, perhaps, with their social or family ties when they do have to choose an abortion. I want less abortions. I'm pro-abortion in the sense that I think we should have unlimited access to abortion, but I'm not pro have abortions on a Sunday for fun.
So here's the question you have to ask somebody like her. Here's the thought experiment. Let's say hypothetically, before you have a choice between two children that you get to have, right? That you know about the future. And this choice between the two babies, you're going to get to know some things about the future of those children's lives and who they're going to become. Before you have the opportunity to become pregnant and have this child, okay?
Sure.
On the one hand, you have the opportunity to have a child who is going to work hard all their life, end up having a nice family, die, never really hurt anybody in any kind of major way or cause any significant trauma to anybody. Of course, they'll make mistakes. They're human. You know, they'll do those normal things, but they won't be a particular vile person.
Sure.
And the other one is going to turn out to be Adolf Hitler.
Sure.
You still have to keep both?
Yeah. And I'm
is that because is that really and you will watch people take that position and think philosophically that they're justified.
Yeah, no, she does. And
that's where you can attack it, because that's on very shallow, hollow ground. Again, your whole thing is about life, and as we know, Hitler killed, we'll say, too many Jews. Like, way too many Jews.
Way too many of a lot of people, but yes, primarily Jews.
Yeah. Now, that's what I'll get called an anti-Semite for making casual jokes about,
Casual, yeah, you need to slow down there, my dude.
Cancel me, daddy.
Oh, God. Ugh.
That's...
Sorry, I threw up a little.
That's all right. But I mean, anyway. that's. I think that we're getting to the root of the issue, because they don't actually have a consequentialist view. They can care less about the consequences of the action, so they pretend to be consequentialists on the upfront, but then back away from a consequentialist position when you press them.
Yeah. I ended up linking you to the group. I can't wait to see you active in this, because it's this woman. She's something else. You'll know her right away. You're gonna see her and you're gonna go, oh, okay. But it's just so interesting to me when people who aren't religious still have these views, because I guess but I guess I feel like at some point, kind of the ultimate conclusion, realizing that if you decide to take a stance that the afterlife isn't a thing, suddenly death doesn't become the worst thing that can happen to you.
Right.
Specifically, the bad afterlife doesn't exist.
But in this case, you're dealing with an atheist who still thinks that ending your life is the worst thing that somebody else can take from you.
Which is just nuts. But
again, it's because people have a really hard time with ethics philosophy.
Yeah.
They don't have it worked out. And trust me, when I was leaving Christianity, that was the hardest calculus you'll ever do.
Yeah.
Like, what I thought about morality was the thing that was the most fucked.
Yeah.
Like, if there's no God, what the fuck is everything permitted? And I had to, I mean, that's that's that real question that religious philosophers ask, which they do it in actually an antagonistic way and think that means that their God is real. But it is the real question I was left with after realizing that I had no faith.
Sure. Is
what is going to be the structure that I base morality on, and how comfortable do I feel with it?
Right.
Generally speaking, I have instincts on this, but I do think the overall, I think whether or not it's philosophically justified, most people are operating under the assumption that we should maximize the well-being of conscious creatures whenever possible and minimize suffering to conscious creatures. We might not be able to argue for that right now, philosophically. Sam Harris tried to. There's been a lot of fair criticisms of his book, The Moral Landscape, from a philosophical perspective. Quite frankly, I think it's people who are insisting on hitting some kind of philosophical bedrock that we don't get in virtually any other one of these type of debates. It's very clear to me that even if that's not, justified right now by the current arguments, it is the axiom that people are using. It's the reason why we care about animals, but a little bit less than humans. It's the reason, right? Like everything makes sense when you work within that conception. So when you get somebody to accept that that's the standard they're using, you can then appeal to that standard as it comes to the abortion debate.
Well, I linked you and invited you.
I have accepted. I'm looking forward to it. I'll jump in the fire.
You might have to go answer some like the.
I had to click like yes that I'll be nicer, debate and be respectful.
Like but yeah, she's great. She's a gem. So I can't wait to see you post on that because I've tried. You can look up what I've tried and it's just like, woof.
Well, and I mean no offense to you, but amongst the two of us, I am definitely more of the philosopher. you know.
Well, and I mean, probably, because if you go and look at all of my posts, primarily what I have challenged her on has been incorrect medical facts.
Sure.
Incorrect legal bases.
Yeah.
Incorrect logic, as in, like, formal logical fallacy.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So, like, that's absolutely more my jam, is like, let me detail all of the objective ways you are wrong.
Yeah, you are fantastic at that. And I've always really been grateful for that.
I prefer, and this is just me, I've always been this way. I prefer to deal in the objective. And that isn't to say I don't understand that some topics have very subjective components. Obviously, I started off this conversation saying, what we are talking about is a moral argument. Arguments are inherently subjective. You can't there is no brass tacks to, boil this down to. Your opinion on abortion can be influenced by science, can be influenced by the law, can be influenced by statistics and all of these wonderful tools. But at the end of the day, the decision you make will come down to your morals.
Well,
it has to.
Let me say a final thing about that, and then I have two other quick hits before you have to go.
Sure.
So I agree with you. One thing that I think people get hung up on is we can make objective claims about subjective experience. Sure. That's an important thing that people sometimes get wrong on this debate when they're using objective and subjective, right?
Sure.
Once we admit that everything we're talking about is contained within subjective experience, and if you're me, you argue that that's the only thing that we can ever talk about because we're not sure if anything exists outside us subjectively experiencing it. But
is that nihilism? Is that no? It's solipsism.
Solipsism. It's kind of like a subjectivist realist argument. Like if anything is real, it's only ever possible. Like everything about experience and the universe could be an illusion.
Sure.
We could be in a simulation. We could be in a I think that argument is absolutely true, and nobody's ever been able to knock it down. I've watched some people try and fall flat on their face, and it's very funny. Sure. Okay, so once we grant that there can be objective facts about subjective experience, I can make right and wrong claims about what it's like to be you, based on facts about how you interpret things and inferring facts about how other, I got debated by somebody once about this on Reddit, and they tried to tell me for me to be able to say this, I would have to solve a hard problem of consciousness. It's like, no, the fuck I don't, right? If you're not operating on a world where you assume you're conscious because you're a Homo sapien and I'm conscious because I'm a Homo sapien, well, then you can't make sense of anything. Sure. So once we start there, and we agree that we're both conscious, and different things that we can do when our consciousness intersect with each other can cause harm or pleasure for both of us, then we can make claims about this. So sure. My operating system is that anything that causes harm to conscious creatures, the most harm most of the time or all of the time would be about as bad as it gets. Anything a step above that is better by definition. And if you can get people to accept that fact, right, and at least agree that even if they're not absolutely at bottom justified and it's not completely objective, at least that's the standard we're going to both agree to. Because that's even Christian morality operates on this. It's the only reason why hell is bad.
Right.
Because it would suck to go there.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like that's all you have. If hell is bad for some other weird reason that doesn't have to do with how I experience it, let me know. I'll wait. Sure. Yeah. So now we get back to what is that infant experience and what am I going to be experiencing by keeping it? And what is our universe going to be like with both of these consciousness in play? Mm-hmm. And how much consciousness does that infant have? And at what point does it have it? Well, I don't know. And you don't know either, because we haven't figured that the fuck out, have we? So,
Not so much.
So we can't use that one. So instead, we're going to have to do with how to reduce the most harm with what we know. Until we learn more. That's the best thing that we can do, objectively. And that's really the position I think that people need to take it from. They need to take it from, because I think just sitting there calling people, idiots about science and just ragging on about how they're in the right is arrogant. And it used to really piss me off when I was, a big, believing person. It really, really bothered me because I was a crusader, damn it, and I was saving lives. And this is a way to appeal to that same instinct and find common ground. Yeah, I'm giving you the chance to save lives. I'm giving you the chance to save people from misery.
Yeah. I mean, I will be, like I said, very interested to see how your discussions with her go because, I tried for a while to appeal to sort of this rational, hopes that, I like to assume that everybody is intelligent enough that a good faith conversation, or at least a conversation where you're not purposefully being patronizing,
sure,
but attempting to be like, no, let me like, I want to explain to you this principle because I understand that a lot of my knowledge is not accessible.
Yeah.
I had tried to do it from that at first, where it was like, okay, let me explain.
Hey, by the way, Chelsea got your text. Thank you. Love you, friend.
So attempted to at first kind of explain this in a sort of, okay, well, I work in law enforcement. Let me explain to you how this works. Because clearly you are misinformed. She ignored me. Okay. We started talking about, I don't even remember at this point, something else. And she just was very adamantly like, facts don't matter. And at that point, when it comes to this discussion, on the by and large, I haven't found the secret to arguing philosophically yet. Mm-hmm. The most I can do is tell people they're wrong, and I'm really good at it. So more power to you. Because, yeah, that's just who I am. I am definitely one of those people who I try not to have opinions if I don't have some sort of objective understanding. No, that's not to say I do. I'm not a fucking robot, right? Like, I'm a person.
Right.
So obviously I don't do that perfectly, but that's always kind of been my moral philosophy, is the beliefs that I hold had best be based on something objective.
I'll tell you that,
I'll
tell you that one really effective way of getting on that page with somebody and getting them to respect you as a equivalent valuable opinion or debater is get their disproving conditions out of them. So here's what I mean. You go to somebody who's, and this is for everybody in chat, this is super useful when you're debating something of great importance like this on a philosophical level, on an ethical level, on something of great importance that you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but you want to have a constructive conversation about. This is not a good technique to use with your spouse. Disclaimer.
You operate under the assumption that you found that one out the hard way, didn't you?
Oh boy, have I. So.
Oh, your poor wife.
Step one is say you want to engage in this conversation and be objective with it, and be open-minded and open to the actual debate, which means there is something that could prove you wrong. There's a situation where it could be wrong, right? Because if something is already assumed to be true and there's no conditions that could disprove it, well, that's just a circular argument. There's no logically getting around that, and there's no point in us discussing further. And I'm sure that that's not what you want, right? And you get them to agree to that. Yeah. And then you go, okay, great. You tell me what I would have to prove for you to be wrong about what you currently think.
Sure.
You'd be amazed how rarely people have an answer to that question.
Well, and I mean, I don't think she would.
She wouldn't. Of course she wouldn't. No. Because, again, what do I have to prove you wrong about? Do I have to prove you wrong that thing is a baby, or do I have to prove you wrong that ending life is the most important, or the most important thing to avoid?
Yeah.
Great. I can argue it's probably the latter, right?
Yeah.
And I can give you that counterexample in about 0.5 seconds. Because we already know situations where ending a life is actually the moral thing to do.
Yeah.
So we appeal to some, and then they realize that, okay, and then they're sort of forced to move the goalposts, and you go move along with them. And allow them to go 3 or 4 steps, and then explain to them that all they've done is move the goalposts because they haven't actually established their position.
I am so excited to see what magic you work on this group, because let me tell you, you're going to be doing a lot of field running, because those goalposts, man. First, I think they're there, and then suddenly they fucking ain't. So this is going to be my entertainment for the week. Thank you.
Hell yeah, you bet. I'm looking forward to it.
How I plan on spending my Labor Day.
Well, we have been up and down this road, and I can't tell you how much I value your voice on this, and value you as a longtime friend, because I was on the wrong side of this issue for a long time, and you didn't necessarily... Well, probably when we were younger, you probably judged me for it at one point.
Oh.
Pretty hard, but...
Pretty hard.
You were still open to when I came around. And I love you for that, and I appreciate it.
Well, I love you too. Okay. I'm still here talking with you about one of the most overworked topics of the century.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Now, there's been 2 other crazy things in the news. One, obviously, I briefly mentioned it in Texas, but Texas really do trying to be Gilead, because now you can carry in Texas without any training whatsoever. If you legally own your firearm, you can carry it around wherever the hell you want, like you're in a 1990s rap album.
Well, I'm pretty sure that it says the right to bear arms, not the right to bear arms with small text, but only after training. So that makes sense. I get it. That's all sarcasm, if anyone didn't catch that. I was very flatline with that. No, that was fucking...
So the next topic, and this one is all too important. I'm going to treat this next 10 minutes as a PSA. Joe Rogan told the whole world today that he took fucking ivermectin for his fucking COVID.
At some point, do we just count this as natural selection?
Here's what you want to know what I'm actually the most terrified about? Joe Rogan is still built like an MMA fighter. He's gonna be fine, and it'll only convince more people to fucking take horse dewormer instead of lest.
I have watched so many people, so many public social media accounts in a lot of these groups that have come forward and been like, yeah, that guy took ivermectin. He's dead now.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't, this is why the most damaging thing that social media has done. I like social media. I love Facebook. I love Reddit. Reddit's great. Discord's like my favorite thing ever. Hell yeah, social media. But the most damaging thing it has done is allowed science denialism, which ties directly into ignoring medical professionals, to run rampant. And has allowed people like Joe Rogan to take his horse dewormer, not die from it, and influence how many other people, other hundreds of people to do the same thing, and probably end up fucking killing themselves because they're taking an anti-parasitic for a virus.
Yeah.
It's
worst case scenario. It's horrible that anybody is listening to it. And I used to be one of those people who, like, look, and I still will defend to this day his right to his platform. I don't think deplatforming him does anything other than martyr him and make him even stronger. So, I think when the media tries to cancel him, the thing to do against really dumb ideas and really bad arguments is demonstrate why they're dumb and make a better one. It's not to deplatform Joe Rogan or say he should be canceled or kicked off of air or any of that, because none of that's true. The reality is Joe Rogan is your average American dumb guy. And this is how easy it is to end up doing the wrong thing as your average American dumb guy.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
In relation to COVID.
Yeah, I was going to say, the best way to really show them that this is the wrong decision is when Joe Rogan ends up dying of ivermectin poisoning, which he might. Because here's the thing, body mass matters, but if he bought it as if he bought it as, like, livestock, at livestock levels, the amount you have to take because of how concentrated it is minuscule. Ivermectin is also, I really hope to God there aren't any crazies that are going to be listening to this, ivermectin is also the same thing they give cats and dogs for deworming.
Yep.
And those are concentrated very differently than the stuff they sell at Fleet and Farm for horses and cattle and pigs and etc. Because you're talking about somewhere between a 10 and 180 pound animal, depending on what dog you have.
Right.
And a 200 to 3,000 pound animal or more.
Right.
And the people, what seems to be causing the most fatalities is these people going and buying the ones that are meant for livestock, which are super, super concentrated to the point where, like, a couple drops is lethal to a human. Literally drops. Like, so, I mean, dude could still end up dead. You never know.
So the PSA is, get your vaccine, don't fucking take horse dewormer, and Joe Rogan, please stop, dude.
Of all the things you could don't, and you don't do that the most.
Honestly, him getting sick from ivermectin poisoning could be a benefit. I genuinely hope it doesn't kill him if it happens.
No, that's exactly.
But I hope he gets sick, recovers, and then tells the whole world about don't fucking take this.
Well, no, but that's exactly what I'm saying when when you said demonstrating why they're wrong. Best way to do that is take the thing, get really fucking ill, and call it good. Really great meme that was going around showing how, let me see if I can find it, because I remember who posted it, talking about vaccinations and people that were dying. Let me see if I can find it in these last few minutes I have. Alright, I can't find it. Not where I thought it was. But long story short, what we are seeing is that, first off, breakthrough cases aren't what are causing the uptick in COVID hospitalizations. And it's U.S. hospitals are almost filled. Again, our hospitals are almost back to being overwhelmed with people sick from COVID-19. But you know what isn't happening? People in U.S. hospitals suffering from side effects from the vaccine. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yep. There's no amount of side effects from the vaccine that could make it. I'll grant you the side effects. It's still a dumb idea not to get it.
Every medicine has side effects.
Yep.
There's not a single medicine out there which does not cause a side effect in someone.
100%.
That's why medicine is regulated. But that doesn't mean that it's still just as safe to not get one and get COVID or take horse dewormer. What the fuck, people? Come on, please.
My favorite meme that I've seen about this, and I shared it on Facebook, but it was a tweet that somebody put out, and it was like, in hindsight, hiding all the microchips in horse dewormer was kind of brilliant.
Yeah, no kidding.
Made me laugh.
And this is coming from the generation that yelled at me for eating Tide Pods, and I wasn't even in that generation. So.
That's jeez.
Anyway,
that's the PSA. Now let's wrap up with the Onion. Normally, I wait till the very end of the stream to do this, but this one was in relation to what we talked about today, so I felt like we should read at least this one. Oh God, this is just like The Handmaid's Tale, reports man standing next to Elizabeth Moss. Chilled by the inescapable parallels between the hit Hulu program and his own life, local man George Avery reported Wednesday. It was almost as though he were in an episode of The Handmaid's Tale while standing next to Elizabeth Moss. Jesus, I never thought I'd live to see the day that the dystopia of Gilead they portrayed on the show would be spilling over to the real world, said a stricken Avery, confirming that the very scenes the program's creators had predicted were indeed beginning to unfold around him after spotting the Emmy-winning actress at the grocery store. It's uncanny how similar everything is. Sure, it may not be exactly the same. There are no costumes or dramatic lighting or musical score, but still, it's happening here right in front of all of us, clear as day. At press time, an overwhelmed Avery has collapsed in terror after catching sight of a train, just like in TNT's Snowpiercer. She looks pretty hot like that. I've never been a fan of that hairstyle, but I'm into it on her.
She's all right. I can only ever look at that hairstyle and think of the hairstyle that was this is a really weird connection that my brain makes. I don't know if you ever played the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, but in Oblivion there was a hairstyle called Swept Back that was specific to the Dark Elves. It looked pretty much just like that, and I've never been able to unsee it. So no, there's a thing that lives rent-free in my brain. So
one of my favorite things they do is when the real news already sounds like an Onion article, so the Onion just rolls with the actual headline from the real news. This is so good. New Texas abortion law offers $10,000 to private citizens for names of anyone who they heard was a slut. It's just magical.
That's almost not the Onion. It's just...
we're living in Onion times, aren't we? In a milestone victory for the anti-abortion movement, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a new law this week that would offer private citizens $10,000 for the names of anyone they heard was a slut. Quote, from the middle-aged woman on her second divorce to the 16-year-old girl making out with her boyfriend under the bleachers, we're asking that everyday citizens assist us in tracking down these hussies. Said Abbott, who invited Texans as well as residents from outside the state to come forward with any information they have that could help identify tramps, whores, and other loose women. Maybe her pants are too tight. Maybe she looks like she's having a little too much fun at the bar. It doesn't matter if she's a huge skank or a bit of a hoe. We promise that you will be handsomely rewarded for whatever information you have. At press time, Abbott added that the state was also asking for the names of any complicit friends, family members, or fashion retailers.
And this right here is proof
Uh,
that not enough people in the U.S. government have OnlyFans accounts.
uh,
Oh man.
we're fucked. I'm changing the name of this show.
Average people all screwed.
I couldn't probably get it approved to call it just "We're fucked," but
Just we're fucked.
that's what I would roll with if I could.
Average people lamenting. Jesus Christ.
Average people talking, subheading, about how fucked they are. Jesus.
Well, yep.
It's been a lovely chat about how fucked we are, indeed.
That needs to be your new tagline. Average people talking, where we talk about how fucked we are.
That's the ad every night.
There you go.
We clearly
Figure
have
it
our
out.
heads so far up our asses.
When the Onion starts sounding like real news, you know you're fucked.
So true. It's
Well.
just what it is.
Well, hopefully we've solved some important world problems today.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking forward to hopping in that debate club.
I'm so excited. Please let me know how those conversations go. Let me know when they happen, because I want to be there on the sidelines with some fucking popcorn. I'll see if you make more ground than I do. More power to you, so. But anyway, as always, it was good chatting with you, Alex.
Same to you. Loved it. And until next time, we'll talk to you later, friend.
For sure. Talk to you later.
There's another gem of an article from The Onion here. Al Qaeda reassures nation 9/11 anniversary attack will be a little cheesy. Al Qaeda released a statement Wednesday assuring the nation that the attack would be a little cheesy. Frankly, it seems a little bit on the nose for us to do another big terrorist attack on September 11th, said group leader Ayman al-Zawahiri. I can't even say that name. Stressing that junior members of Al Qaeda would occasionally bring up the idea of striking America at 9/11 or even bombing the World Trade Center again, before being told the idea was unoriginal and already all over Twitter. Don't get me wrong, we've obviously thought about it, and it's not like we couldn't pull it off. But we just hold ourselves to a higher standard of creativity. Also, what are we going to do on anniversaries after this one? Just keep bombing America on the 30th, the 40th? What does it end? The terrorist leader went on to emphasize that whenever they did choose to strike, absolutely no one would see it coming. Ain't that the truth? Oh, jeez. Let's see what else is trending. We had Joe Rogan. We had Texas being turned into Gilead. Somebody told me Adam Sandler was trending. I'm trying to figure out where that's at. Oh, Adam Sandler trending. For playing basketball. Oh shit, that was actually nice. Oh. Big Daddy got moves. I just want to see Adam Sandler make buckets. All right. At this point, they just need to make an Adam Sandler playable character on NBA 2K. Couldn't agree more. Dude clearly loves basketball. What else we got? Cthulhu is trending. Wait, what? I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight because of that. That was rough. That was rough. Well, if you're still out there watching, I appreciate you coming to the stream. I think that's going to about do it for me tonight. It was a good chat with Sarah. We talked about some deep shit. I'm going to make some clips and come back on Sunday and have something all new for you Sunday, I'm sure. Hopefully the news isn't so tragic and we can talk about something a little more positive. Wouldn't that be nice? But not hopeful. This is America. We're just like one of those like warehouses that's like got that poster that's it's been 47 days since our last terrible thing happened, and we just have to pull it down all the time and start over. So that's the more likely scenario. This is also the creepiest picture of Joe Rogan I've ever seen. Just feel like I need to state that.